Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us, coming to you from Washington's premier indoor shooting facility. Of course, that is Security Gun Club right here in Woodinville, Washington. Hey, New York, we get to talk again. It's been a while, but your legislature is just wrapping things up in Albany, and it wouldn't be a legislative session in the great state of New York if they didn't at least get to stick it to the gun owners in some ways. Now, I have said on this channel quite openly that if you're looking for the most unconstitutional gun laws in America, then look no further than California. If you're looking for the most evil gun laws, ones that are just absolutely nefarious in every way, shape, and form, well, then look no further than the state of Illinois. But if you are looking for the dumbest, the most idiotic gun laws in America, then you really have to look no further than the Empire State. So today, we'll get you introduced to one of them. Let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about New York comes up with its dumbest gun law yet, again. Okay, New York, this is what we are talking about. We are talking about Assembly Bill 2882. It is an interesting piece of legislation. I will tell you that very similar legislation was passed out here in Washington State through the initiative process back in 2019. And as you can see from our homicide data right here, it has worked tremendously well. Really, really has. So, hey, kudos to you. I'm sure this will really work. This is legislation that is about as effective as gun-free zones. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's legislation that actually believes that signs are going to save lives. That's right, that if we just post some signs, well, everything's going to be okay. And so what this bill does, New York, and it has been passed out of the House, it has been passed out of your Senate, it is heading to Governor Hochul's desk. She will sign it. She absolutely adores every piece of civilian disarmament legislation. What this piece of legislation does, it will require all FFLs, gunsmiths, anybody who's basically engaged in the commerce of trading firearms, if you actually allow that somewhere in the state of New York, to post a sign. Now, I have made this sign according to exactly how the law reads. So let me just get you introduced to how this law works in New York, and then we'll break it down and we'll talk about just how absurd it is. The legislation will now read as follows. Every firearm dealer shall distribute a notice to the purchaser at the time of each individual sale of a weapon or firearm, conspicuously stating, in no smaller than 26-point type, and on paper at least 8 1/2 by 11 inches in bold print, the following warning. Okay, so on an 8 1/2 by 11 piece of paper in 26-point font, no smaller than that, that's exactly what I made here, the following warning shall be given. Access to a weapon or firearm in the home significantly increases the risk of suicide, death during domestic disputes, and/or unintentional deaths to children, household members, and others. If you or a loved one is experiencing distress and/or depression, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 988. Now, in addition to having to give this exact warning to all purchasers, the FFL shall display the sign in multiple locations. And then, of course, if you are lucky enough to be granted the permission slip by the state of New York to actually possess a firearm, then the state will also be required to give you, again, the following warning. Access to a weapon or firearm in the home significantly increases the risk of suicide, death during domestic disputes, and/or unintentional deaths to children, household members, and others. If you or a loved one is experiencing distress and/or depression, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 988. Now, what's essentially happening here is that the state of New York is trying to stigmatize the exercise of an inalienable right through warning labels, similar to what we did to the tobacco industry decades ago. Now, there's a big, huge difference. You see, theoretically, nobody has the constitutional right to use tobacco. Just going to say that. And I think there's probably considerable data to show that tobacco poses a significant more health risk than a lawful and responsible use of firearms. But what I want you to think about, New York, is what gives your state the right to disfavor the exercise of one inalienable right and to literally start writing a series of warning labels as if the person is using some kind of a harmful substance. Could you imagine if the state of New York decided to start doing that about the exercise of other rights? And I actually went through and decided, hey, I'll come up with some more. We'll put them on 8.5 by 11 in 26-point font so that you guys could also understand how exercising other rights in New York may affect you. Have we ever thought about a warning label that says, voting in a New York State election significantly increases the risk of electing an imbecile who will strip you of your constitutional rights under the guise of making your community safer, all while working feverishly to make your communities less safe? Or for those of you who actually want to exercise your First Amendment right of free expression, expressing your own independent thoughts, as our founders intended, significantly increases the risk of significant personal and professional losses if your viewpoints are not in line with your government's preferred position. Or how about this as a warning, which is true in the state of New York as it relates to the exercise of a person's Second Amendment rights. Exercising your Second Amendment rights significantly increases the likelihood that you will be denied government-assisted housing for no other reason other than exercising that right. But America, this begins to show the all-out war that's being waged on this inalienable right, because not only are they attacking it from statutory and constitutional vantage points, but they are also attacking it from a public relations standpoint, a public perception standpoint, and candidly, it appears that we're getting a little bit smoked on the messaging. But like I say, New York, hey, congratulations. I'm sure that the people in Albany feel like they're going to save a lot of lives. As I mentioned, look how well it's worked in Washington State. Once again, it is Assembly Bill 2882. We'll link it up down below, New York, so that you can see what it's all about and when the effective date is. If you got any questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, our contact information is down there in the description box. Maybe you got ideas for videos that we should be doing here at Washington Gun Law. If you do, click on that link right there. Some of the best ideas we ever had weren't really our ideas to begin with. And then finally, and most importantly, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.